Hello, everybody. Welcome to tonight's episode. And once again, my name is Jessika Morgan. This is the Healing Place podcast. And I just want to apologize to everyone. I know that I was supposed to come out on Sunday, and now it's Tuesday, excuse me. So sorry about that. We were having some technical difficulties and lost power. We were traveling for the holidays, lost power at the hotel. So tonight's episode is called Court of Broken Trust, Exposing Family Court Corruption in Charlotte, North Carolina. And tonight we're going to be breaking down what exactly is happening in the Mecklenburg County court system, okay? So, like I said, welcome back, everybody. This is the Healing Place podcast, where truth isn't negotiable, accountability isn't optional, and healing requires honest confrontation of issues. I'm your host, Jessika Morgan, National Victims' Rights Advocate, and tonight we are going to go straight into what I like to call the belly of the beast, because of all the courts that you can be in, family court, divorce court, whatever you want to call it, that is the worst court that you can find yourself in, especially if you are located in Mecklenburg County Family Court System in Charlotte, North Carolina. So this episode I'm going to go into some great detail about issues that I personally have experienced dealing with family court. We need family court reform across the entire nation. This is, I know tonight we're going to be focusing on Charlotte, North Carolina, because for some reason that happens to be where I get the most headache from when I'm working on cases and personal experience and just everything that goes on there. I always like to, joke around and say that Charlotte's my Nineveh, right? So, but family court reform is something that needs to be done across the board in all of the nation's family court system. I see posts from parents, survivors, grandparents all the time, and I see it just, this is a system that just is this courtroom, everything that happens in there, it's like you have that's where you have like the least rights in criminal court. So it's different in criminal court, because in criminal court you have more rights. You also can have a trial by jury. You can also, you get a bond. The judge does not necessarily always make the final decision. You can, if you have felonies and so forth, you can opt to have a trial by jury. But in family court, you have one judge, not a jury, that decides, that listens to the case and decides. Also, the burden of proof is higher, is beyond a reasonable doubt in criminal court. Unlike in civil court, family court, it's by preponderance of evidence in most jurisdictions. So this episode is for survivors who have been silenced, parents who have been dismissed, children who have been endangered or even lost their lives, unfortunately, due to poor rulings in the family court system, and the community that's been lied to for years. So family court isn't just a courtroom. It's the gatekeeper. It's supposed to be not just a courtroom. It's supposed to be a gatekeeper of safety, stability, and generational protection. The decisions that are made in that building, in those courts, determine whether a child is safe, whether a victim escapes abuse, whether a parent gets justice, or, gets destroyed. And unfortunately, in this court, the entire family a lot of times gets destroyed. The children don't always end up safe. The victims do not always escape. And in a lot of situations, victims have left their abuser. And this is what I tell people all the time, is that if you are a survivor of domestic violence, and you're always told to leave. That's always, everybody says leave. Well, if you have children with that individual, you're not ever able to fully leave, because they have rights to the children. So you are in that thing, forced to co-parent with your abuser, share custody with your abuser, co-parent with your abuser, and those type of cases that start out where there's been domestic violence and so forth, they get labeled by the courts a lot of times as high conflict cases, when in all reality there has been domestic violence, and now the family's dealing with post-separation abuse. So Charlotte's Family Court has become a place where survivors walk in hopeful. I personally myself walked in there hopeful, wanting help, expecting justice. And myself, along with other survivors, we walked in hopeful and we left totally devastated. And a lot of us, some people didn't even, I know it's unfortunate, but we have some people who did not make it out of those courts alive. And we also, who have lost everything, totally been devastated mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially after leaving Mecklenburg County court systems. So tonight I'm calling it out with, I got receipts, petitions, documented failures, with survivor testimonies, all from out of Mecklenburg County, right? So people across Charlotte are accusing the family court system of corruption, bias, and systemic neglect. So currently right now, there is a change.org petition. Let me go ahead and see if I can pull this petition up for you guys real quick. Give me one moment to share this, okay? So you have to bear with me on this one, because I'm going to pull up this, see if I can pull up and share this petition with you. That this is an updated one, actually, that's on change.org. And right now, this petition is currently 1,630 supporters. Okay, so let me go in here and share. Where's that? One moment. It's asking me to share my screen. Currently right now sharing this petition that is on .org, Mecklenburg County Family Court, and Family Court Corruption Bias, Charlotte, North Carolina, 1,660, which is a lot more, because it was, the other one was actually somewhat declared victory in that. So this petition right now says, we are aggrieved victims and concerned citizens who have tragically witnessed countless innocent children and domestic violence survivors being unjustly harmed due to the pervasive corruption and favoritism in the Mecklenburg County Family Court system. And this petition currently, it actually lists Judge Christy Mann, Jena, Culler, Alyssa, Levine. I've heard some things about her. She's new. Karen McCallum. We'll get to her in a minute because she's a whole thing in herself, and I have personal experience with her. So Alyssa Levine actually took over Karen McCallum's cases. And then also Rhonda Patterson. That's a new one. The main names that I am more familiar with, that I've heard frequently from many survivors and many protective mothers, has been Christy Mann, Jena, Culler, McCallum, those three primarily. So like I said, I have heard some things recently since Levine took over, but she is new to the court. So I try to give some of them newer ones some grace. So But these have repeatedly demonstrated bias that victimizes protective mothers while shielding abusive fathers from accountability instead of protecting children. These judges often harm children and penalize mothers for showing distress or fear. Responses that stem directly from trauma and abuse. The result is a devastating pattern. Abusive parents gain increased custody or full custody while protective parents lose their children. So let me just, once again, I'm going to say that tonight while I'm talking about what's going on in Mecklenburg County and exposing that, because they always have a lot going on, I swear. It's one thing after another with them. They heard it from the floor up. This is a pattern that we see across the board a lot of times in family court across the nation. And we really need reform in this court from a federal level. So these practices violate the spirit and purpose of family law, which is to serve the best interests of the child. Constitutional parents' rights are repeatedly violated in Mecklenburg County Family Court. The widespread implementation of 50-50 custody in cases involving domestic violence is not fair or a safe outcome. It prioritizes optics, convenience over the children's emotional and physical safety. The system's bias toward maintaining parental rights has created a dangerous imbalance. Victims report that family court judges routinely ignore evidence of abuse, demean and criminalize mothers, jail mothers, and engage in victim-blaming behaviors. Lawyers, parent coordinators, and agencies such as the Department of Social Services, DSS, in Mecklenburg County have failed to intervene effectively over deferring to judicial authority rather than the welfare of the children. The North Carolina State Bar Judicial Standards Committee dismissed nearly all complaints of judicial misconduct because there's only one so there is 99 counties in North Carolina. So while we have a Judicial Standards Commission in that state, there is only one investigator that investigates all complaints that go to Judicial Standards Committee in North Carolina. One investigator for 99 counties. All these different complaints coming from all these different judges and all these different jurisdictions across North Carolina, multiple judges, multiple courts, only one investigator. Yes, they have a team, but there's only one primary investigator for that entire state. That's not right. We'll go into further detail in that later on. So once again, North Carolina State Bar systemically dismisses 98.8% of all complaints. This deeply flawed system has led to irreversible harm and in some cases the loss of young lives. The situation in Mecklenburg County demands immediate public scrutiny, independent investigation, and reform. We urge citizens, media, and advocacy organizations to speak out, document their experiences, and call for accountability from those entrusted with protecting families. We hereby call upon the proper authorities to conduct thorough investigations into Mecklenburg County Family Court, particularly the practices of judges Jena, Culler, Christy, Mann, Alyssa, Levine, Rhonda, Patterson, and McCallum. Like I said, once again, the other two, I've heard some stuff, but not as much across the board that I've heard about Culler, Mann, and McCallum. She just is in a whole box by herself. I have personal experience with her, and I'm getting ready to show you those. We demand an immediate halt to their power to decide over family cases until the investigation is complete. We implore the authorities to implement systemic changes that prioritize children's and victims' rights, protect domestic violence victims, and ensure fairness and justice in every family court case. Our children's lives and our community's future depend on it. Please sign this petition to help achieve a better, safer, and fairer Mecklenburg County. So I firmly believe that when I'm all about the power of life and death is in the tongue. So when we speak things into existence and we put it out there into the light and we expose it, that sheds light on issues. Excuse me. And that's where healing and accountability takes place. So now I'm going to go ahead and read for you some, like, you can just keep reading this. Like, allegations against Judge Jena P. Culler includes claims of systemic bias against mothers, demeaning comments about women, serious harm to children in violation of laws and constitutional rights, Culler is criticized for minimizing abusive behaviors by fathers and blaming mothers. Boys will be boys, and victims were blamed. Seems Culler still stereotypes women as crazy and refuses to believe them. Many local lawyers advise victims to remain in danger of injuries, not get protective orders, because Culler won't issue any and will take a child away from them. Outdated myths such as parental alienation appear to remain in effect, while minimal consideration is given to children's safety and well-being. So you can go on to read that. It also talks about how Jena Culler faced criticism in connection with the death of a 16-month-old Jaheim Richardson after allegedly awarding custody to an abusive parent. Commentators have also accused her of showing a lack of remorse following the incident. Accounting News 4U article reported that Jaheim's autopsy indicated he weighed 28 pounds and measured 32 inches in height, with blunt force injuries to his head and chest, as well as healing burns to his scrotum and buttocks. The article described the case as one of prolonged abuse witnessed by the child's siblings and criticized what it characterized as indifference from the court. There's another case, Mead versus Mead. And we could just keep going with this one for Culler. I've heard a lot about her. Mann. So she served over 19 years as judge. Online victims have accused Judge Mann of bias against women, favoritism for abusive and alcoholic fathers, arrogance in many remarks towards litigants, and ignoring law. We have a case, Hidalgo M versus Matthews James Rosenfield. Judge Mann is accused of unconstitutionally taking away custody from mother in sole effort to force the mother to relocate back to North Carolina. Judge Mann is accused of ignoring evidence of father's domestic violence against mother and child, as well as father's criminal felonious records. We already know how the criminal court works, has been working in Mecklenburg County. And then mother then filed numerous requests for custody, stating child is in serious danger. However, Judge Mann denied all requests and refused to hear it. Judge Mann has granted plenty unproven ex parte pleadings when fathers requested such. Judge Mann is also accused of letting the lawyer Sabrina Blaine to write the court order, which that's not really a thing, because a lot of times, judges, they'll have attorneys draw up the orders and so forth. So that's not a big deal to me. That's normal. So you can I just keep on scrolling. There's numerous cases here in regards to her. So Alyssa Levine, she's allegedly is accused by victims of bias against mothers, demeaning mothers, unlawful rulings, revengeful behavior, not caring for children's well-being. Joining family court January 2024. So this is the judge that I was telling you guys about, that Judge Karen McCallum was removed from family court and sent back to criminal court, where she probably belongs, because she used to be a prosecutor and she wanted to prosecute all the parents up there in family court. So she took over McCallum's cases, and she's accused of bias against litigants, several recusal motions that she's denied, she's rolling her eyes, clenching her lips, and displaying hostile body language. Like I said, I've heard things about this judge. I'm a little bit biased because I'd rather anybody be in there than Judge McCallum. So I've heard things, but once again, she's new, and I've worked in the courts and stuff as well. And so sometimes, certain things I can look at and be like, okay, because that's our thing, guys, is like, we also have to remember that there is times to where when you are an advocate or you work in the courts, you're a lawyer, you're a judge, a cop, a detective and stuff. I've even had people pretend to be, women say that they're victims when they're not, and they're actually, and a further investigation shows that they're the perpetrator and has had numerous restraining orders against them in multiple counties and different states over like a 10-year period, right? And even pulled a gun on men and pulled the trigger. But they had manipulated numerous advocates and organizations in multiple different states until I actually looked, and she was trying to actually get a name change, saying that she was a victim of human trafficking, domestic violence, and identity theft, when in fact she was wanting a name change because she had a criminal record because she was the perpetrator. And so she presented herself to advocates as a victim when all in reality, she was the perpetrator. And it's unfortunate that we have sometimes unconscious bias, and that we automatically will assume that if it's a woman, that they're the ones that they're the victim, and that if it's a man, that he's the perpetrator. And I can tell you from experience that I've sat in numerous court hearings, restraining orders and family court hearings, and worked and seen both sides. I've seen where women have lied on fathers, where women have are actually the abusers, and the men and the fathers are the victims. And you do have some angry, vindictive ex-women out here, men and women, exes, period, regardless of their gender, that can make false allegations. And so I do always try, especially with my criminal justice background and stuff, and pre-law, and having done this for about 10 years now, that I try to be very open-minded. I always believe the victim, but I trust but verify. And I will go through it with a fine-tooth comb and look and make sure that I'm actually taking the side of the actual survivor, the victim, and I'm not going to allow myself to be manipulated and bamboozled. So sometimes, courts get it wrong, and they hear different stuff. They hear it all day, every day, in and out, families back and forth. And so sometimes I can see why judges may roll their eyes. I'm pretty sure that I may have rolled my eyes a few times. I try not to, but you hear it day in and day out. And I've heard some people just take out restraining orders on each other and say these things. And it's like, are you seriously? So I've seen myself as an advocate how restraining orders, false allegations, and things like that, it can be weaponized and manipulated. And sometimes it's like, really, you're taking out a restraining order for that? So they're a little too easy to get sometimes. And it kind of sucks, because what happens a lot of times is that you have those who are being vindictive and malicious, and they make false allegations, false reports, trying to win over head in custody, or just being angry and vindictive out for the other parent. And sometimes you can become, even as a professional, maybe cynical in some ways and not totally hearing. So you're thinking, you're just, going through the motions and not listen. You may miss something, or may actually think that. So what I'm trying to say is that it's unfortunate, but a lot of times the cases where there is where there is real abuse and domestic violence going on, because there is those individuals who will manipulate the court system and lie and do X, Y, and Z. The real victims and children do not get heard. So it gets old, and you don't know sometimes who's telling you the truth. Imagine, I've actually personally had some cases where we've even had a staff out with other advocates where I'm like, I don't know who's the abuser. I don't know. They're both acting up. They're like, it's both of them. I think at this point, they're being abusive to each other, because I've seen where you have a victim, you have a child, and then you have a real victim, then you have a perpetrator, then you have, it's sometimes where people are abusive to each other, and it's both of them, and they're both being, got the kids in the middle of it. So, but here's the thing. If more than one person says something, then it's probably true. And this petition list gives great detail in cases where there has been concerns with these judges. So Judge Levine ordered full custody to a father based on father's testimony and motions, including moot pro se motions, North Carolina Court of Appeals have long stated that pro se filings when litigants is represented by a lawyer are moot and inadmissible. I don't think that's true. We'll go back and look at that. Judge Levine admitted the pro se father's ex parte motion granted him sole custody despite such motion being legally admissible. I don't think that that's true on that one, but we're going to read some of the comments. Here we get to Judge Karen McCallum. Okay. So this one right here. This is true. I have personal experience, so I'm ready to play the videos for you after we read here and read over these signatures. So Judge Karen Okay, guys. So I'm so sorry. I'm having some like technical difficulties over here for whatever reason. So I hope I don't know how much of that you guys caught, but I'm gonna keep going. So let me go and share. For Judge McCallum. So give me 1 minute to pull them up, the recordings. And if you guys caught me cussing and everything, that's because I'm having some technical difficulties over here, so I apologize. It's annoying. I'm trying to pull this up and like it's been working fine, and then I was having technical difficulties for I guess like the enemy does not want me to get this message out whatsoever. But I'm gonna get it out regardless. So forgive if I cussed. I apologize, you guys. Like so, God forgive me. Okay. I think it's the internet, maybe. I'm not sure. I don't know what in the world's going on here. Seriously. Let me try to go back to. No, I don't want to create it. Go away. So, it's taking forever to load. So, in my court case with Judge McCallum. So, I'm going to show you 3 videos on YouTube, okay? So, I'm going to go here and share my screen. We're going to play all 3 of these videos. So this was my case. This was back, I remember this date specifically. It's March 2nd, 2021.
To that. I did not say she testified to that. I said that information came out that it was not the first time that I had heard that statement. Okay. Is what I said. I never said she testified.
Okay, so I'm going to stop right there, you guys. Okay, so McCallum right there. So this is my court case. This is my family court case in Mecklenburg County. Okay. McCallum right there says, now she's a sitting judge. She said, I never said mom testified to that. So here's some of the background. Family court case, and my ex, my daughter's father, violence between us. There was some severe domestic violence back and forth. So his niece and my daughter's godparents, they're being in our custody case. So we're concerned to it because dad was wreaking havoc and was was relapsing on drugs. And when he would do drugs, he when you're dealing with someone who has a substance abuse issue, it's Dr. Jekyll, when he's sober, he was really loving to our fathers. Now, he never did anything to our girls, but his substance use issues and his behaviors, especially towards with me and him, was very concerning. And I'm 5'1", he's 6'7". So, and I ain't gonna sit there and say like that I was perfect too, because I'm not perfect by no means. Okay. So there was some times that it was both of us back and forth. I can sit there and say today that I probably could have handled myself a lot better. Back then, this was about he had relapsed again. We had a court hearing right before the pandemic hit in February 2020. My daughter is supposed to come back with me full time. Pandemic hit. They got stuck. Courts closed down. They got stuck over there with the interveners. My son has autism spectrum disorder, behavioral issues, and he was also hanging out with the bad crowd back then. So I put him in during the pandemic, he was kind of regressing with his behavior. So I put him in a residential treatment facility during that time. Attorney Alonda Trotman, she filed, which there was no need to file an emergency custody order actually, because there was already a temporary order in place, and there was not an emergency because there was no grounds really for that. But Yolanda Trotman filed a fraudulent emergency custody order in my case, stating that my son had been placed in a facility for inappropriate sexual behavior, which was not true. And Judge McCallum granted that motion back in February-ish, March of 2021 on those grounds, because in the state of North Carolina, you can only get emergency custody if there is allegations, substantial proof of like sexual abuse, or if you're going to evade jurisdiction and remove the kid out of the state or out of the county, right? So that was one of them. So we actually had, at that time, before Council for Children's Rights closed down, they were on the case. So I emailed Patty Titoni, and I'm going to show you the guys' video. I emailed Patty Titoni and was like, where in the hell are they getting that my son was placed in a facility for inappropriate sexual behavior? That's not freaking true, because one thing about it is that you don't accuse anyone, not even an adult, let alone a child, of inappropriate sexual behavior. Now, it wasn't towards or anything like that, but you don't accuse a child, an adult, of something like that, period, let alone a child. And I'm like, where the hell are they getting this? So I may be able to pull up the emails that I sent. So I emailed rights director back in the day, Patty, like, where the hell are they getting this information from? What? I'm going to file a bar complaint, because who are you? Like, especially about my child. My son was 13 at that time, right? He was like 12, 13 years old. So maybe I'll turn 14. I think 12, 13, 14. So I told Patty Titoni in email that I was going to file a bar complaint against Yolanda Trotman for that false allegation to get this fraudulent emergency custody order, right? Well, Patty Titoni behind the scenes went and emailed Yolanda Trotman and them and said that I was going to file a bar complaint. So Yolanda Trotman went in there and amended her motion, removing the word sexual. However, the harm had already been done in my case, and McCallum had granted it, okay? What you're seeing right here is the court hearing in August of 2021, where Judge McCallum held me in contempt of court. And this is my attorney, Taisha the Culler. We're talking about what happened March of 2021. So you're going to see this, where Judge McCallum lies herself and said that she never said that I testified to that, because I never did. I sent transcripts. I never did, because it ain't freaking true. So my attorney's like, it's true that you said my client testified to that. And Judge McCallum's like, I never said mom testified to that. Then we're getting ready to watch the actual hearing where McCallum said this. this, okay? Remember right here, Judge McCallum saying, I never said mom testified to that. But she did.
I believe I asked you because you sure said it. I remember it. I'm very Morgan, and I still am. We should play the video then.
Miss Morgan.
Jessika, please.
And you are in direct contempt of court.
And so,
and that's fine.
And so,
and we'll have that hearing after this hearing's concluded.
And so, more relevant is that a judge in family court, you have a jury, right? So if you have a biased judge.
All right, so what you have right here is part of a podcast video. Now, you can look this up on YouTube, where my attorney, Taisha DaCosta, my family court attorney at that time, and another mother who had McCallum, her name was Laninia. We were on a podcast, and we actually were exposing, because McCallum was doing the same thing to the other mother. And actually, my family court attorney right here, Taisha DaCosta, she went on the podcast with us, and she defended me. Even though she didn't do things perfect in my case, and I think that she could have done maybe some things different, filed some more stuff. You know, I have to give it to her. She took a lot of beating, and even from the bar, because she got harassed by Judge McCallum. But she was held in contempt of court with me, actually, and she was honest. Like, she really went to bat for me, because, and so this is what you're going to see right here. So this video, like, there is one of the entire court hearing for that day. But what I've done is I've took it and I put those pieces, some of this together. Because back then when I made this video, when I actually put the original up, they actually tried to gatekeep me and told, so Judge McCallum, so back in 2021, we had court on WebEx. Before the contempt thing that she just did in that one video, she tried to sit there and try to get me in contempt for recording the hearing in March of 2021. I never recorded the hearing. The hearing was recorded by the courts, because court was on WebEx. And so all I did was request from the clerk the WebEx hearing. And what did I do? I remember sitting there that day like, that was such an injustice. I remember how I felt that day after court, and just like being gaslit and falsely accused of something. Falsely being accused of something that I did not say, that was not true. And then about my child, then the false allegation about my child that wasn't true, and what she was, just all that. I'm like, this is crazy. Like, I have got to get this out there. And so I requested the WebEx hearing, and I recorded it. I posted it on YouTube, and I did the change.org petition. They didn't like it. They tried to silence me. I was harassed, but I put it out there, and I'm glad I did, because I was one of the first moms to actually do that there. And I'm probably one of the very few, if any, that actually have a judge that you're getting ready to see caught lying on the bench, and where she contradicts herself and lies. So, because now I'm looking and seeing this other petition, and I consistently hear to this day about what parents are going through in family court, the horror stories, and reading that petition with you guys just now, seeing some of those comments that are just like 3 months old. It's still going on. It's still happening. If anything, it looks like it's getting worse. So, but this is the podcast that me and my attorney with another mother during that time went on to expose family court, and at that time in Mecklenburg County. So it was kind of, people was a little nervous back then more than what they are now, I think. But here, let's go finish watching it.
You're pretty much screwed. Because she's the judge, the jury, like God. I mean, quite situation. It really got bad at the second emergency hearing because the judge said something that was, in my estimation, inappropriate, not based on facts. And I asked her about it, and there's a change.org video out there. She pretty much said that Jessika's a liar and that her son was in facility for sexual inappropriate behavior, that Jessika said that. And I said, Your Honor, when did my client say that? And that kind of started us down this rabbit hole. I guess, how dare I question God, right? Because that's who she really thinks she is. And
now, is that the footage that we have?
Yeah, that is the footage.
We about to roll that.
Michelle Dorsey said they need to address the issue with the judge. She is not qualified to be in family traffic court issue with me.
All right, we about to roll it.
Okay.
We about to roll that footage. All right, Here we go.
I would go back and pull my notes from that hearing, but it just did not come out of the clear air or thin air, and I'm not making any findings that he committed any type of sex acts, but I want you to know that you did make that testimony. A lot of that stuff you put out there, so you have no one to blame but yourself. A lot of the testimony you gave was just not truthful. You told half-truths, flat-out lies. I mean, it's very difficult to believe anything that comes out of your mouth. And I understand that you love your girl, but there are these two girls, and right now, it's not with you, Father. Is there anything else?
Yes, you said that my client mentioned Wisconsin DSS to sexual behavior at the last hearing. I want to
said something about that. This wasn't the first time that information came out, and I know she said something to CFCR about that child being investigated by DSS in Wisconsin. And I was not. I meant to pull my notes over the lunch break, but I didn't. Whatever. But
Your Honor, I'm sorry.
I'm not putting that in as a finding of fact. I'm just putting that out there as a. Come on now. Anything else? Because I know Ms. Trotman has to go.
Yeah, that's pretty serious, though, right? So that's seriously serious to say that.
All right, guys. So what you're going to hear right here is where my attorney, like you heard me sit there and say, like, I never testified to that, right? So my attorney, Taisha DaCosta, she's like, when did my client say that? And like, exactly, like, that's pretty serious to say something like that about a child when it's not true. So remember, like I said, is that Yolanda filed that fraudulent motion, making the allegation, but then when she found out, so what Judge McCallum was talking about actually there is that email that I sent to, so this is how I knew they were having ex parte communications, is because Patty Tony emailed Yolanda Trotman and told her that I was going to file a bar complaint, which prompted Yolanda to go back and amend the motion because, and stuff for you too, and so you guys can see it. I have the email that said from Patty Tony, Counsel Rights back at that time, that says that your son was investigated by DSS for inappropriate. We have no clue where they're getting that from. Blah 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 blah. Patty Tony did not speak up. She was the lead, the director and lead attorney for Counsel Children's Rights. She did not speak up at all. And that was from the recusal hearing, because and also Patty Tony eventually filed a motion to withdraw from, because she didn't like that I had her posted and so forth. So we're gonna watch that case and everything that happened, that because if you care about what you do and you care about your clients and stuff, there's going to be cases that you take home with you that you can't help but that's going to stick with you for a long time.
A child has had inappropriate sexual behavior when that is not true. I did not make that finding, for one, and two, I did not say that he was. What I'm saying is that Mom, in that last hearing, testified under oath about something with DSS and this sexual inappropriateness or whatever from Wisconsin. This isn't
I did not testify to that, Your Honor. I did not. We can pull the court transcripts.
I didn't get it out of that order.
Not say that, and I'm sorry.
I'm not get that from that order, from those two motions. I did not get that from those two motions. That came out in that last hearing. So,
may I ask a question? This is Ms. Hendrick. When I know that you said father's not getting
that Miss Morgan's son was.
So, how the first part of the video is the same hearing, right? So what I just showed you was, so this hearing that you have right here, this is actually this is actually a recusal hearing where, so the same day that she held me in contempt, was the same day that I actually filed a motion to recuse. She consistently refused to recuse herself from my case. So if you watch, she says, I never said that Mom testified to that, but we just watched her say that I testified to that under oath, right? But here at this hearing, she says that she never said that to me. And my attorney calls her out on it. And that's where I interrupt her. It's like, yes, you did say it. You so said it. We can play the video. Miss Morgan, you're in direct contempt of court. I stay in contempt because she'd been trying to get me in contempt for months over something. And even my attorney holding her in contempt. So she lied. She held me in contempt of court, direct contempt of court, for interrupting her because I was totally flabbergasted that there is a video recording of you saying I testified to that For one, you falsely accused me and said that I testified to it when I never did. Then you're going to lie and say that you never said that you never accused me of testifying to that. So yes, I interrupted her because, are you serious? You're a judge. You're on a bench. Why are you lying? Like, you're what? And then you're going to hold me in contempt. And it's like, to this day, I really believe that she purposely did that because she knew it was getting underneath my skin and that I would say something. So she was trying to get me in contempt. So this is where she holds me in contempt, direct contempt of court for the one contempt. So let's watch it again.
Was in a facility for sexual inappropriate behavior. It's correct that you said my client testified to that.
I did not say she testified.
Sorry, looks like I'm having some technical.
That information came out that it was not the first time that I had heard that statement.
Okay.
Is what I said. I never said she testified to that.
I believe I asked
the video then because you sure said it. I remember it.
Miss
Morgan, and I still am. We should play the video then.
Miss Morgan.
Jessika, please.
And you are in direct contempt of court.
And so,
and that's fine.
And so,
and we'll have that hearing after this hearing's concluded.
And so, more relevant is that a judge in family court court, you
So we can sit. So I did this. I did this back to back. Like
judge, you're pretty much
I made this.
She's the judge, the jury, like God. I mean, quite honestly, all of those things.
So let's go to where the hearing. Let me fast forward it. So you guys just heard her say.
But it just did not come out in the clear air or thin air. And I'm not making any findings that he committed any type of sex acts, but I want you to know that you did make that testimony. A lot of that stuff you put out there, so you have nobody to blame but yourself. A lot of the testimony you gave was just not truthful. You told half-truths, flat-out lies. I mean, it's very difficult to believe anything that comes out of your mouth. And I understand that you love your girls. I want you to have a relationship with your girls. But the polar star is what environment is going to best promote the welfare of these two girls. And right now, it's not with you. Is there anything else?
You said that my client mentioned Wisconsin DSS for sexual behavior at the last hearing. I want to
said something about that. This wasn't the first time that information came out, and I know
So if
she
you
said
listen
something to
so
CSCR.
right here, so this was the hearing that was held March 2nd of 2021. I remember that. I will remember because I remember how I felt. I was like, what the hell just happened? I was being gaslit. You're telling me that I testified to something that I never freaking testified to because it was not true. So this was March 2nd, 2021. The one where she says, I never said that mom testified to it. That was in August of 2021 when she held me in contempt of court, direct contempt of court for interrupting her because like, are you serious? Like we could play the video just like I'm playing right now for all you guys that watch this. You sat up there and falsely accused me of testifying to something horrific about my son that I never testified to. Then you're going to turn around months later and lie as a sitting judge on the bench and say that that you never said that to me when there's a freaking video of it. So then here, so that's this one. Now let me go to show you guys. You guys can watch these too. So this is when I'm going to show you the hearing where Patterson, she filed former director for Council for Children's Rights. If I'm not mistaken, the Council for Children's Rights in Mecklenburg County got shut down for money, something like that or whatever. Probably because of crap like this too. But she filed a motion to recuse herself from the case. And so here we are. So I'm going to play this video for you. And this is kind of where I told I told him, I sent an email to Patterson. She wrote to the court and I meant what I said. To this day, I will not apologize for what I said. I defended myself, I defended my son, I defended from false, this is what we're getting at. So this is the stuff with McCallum. Then I'm going to go into the rest of the stuff that's going on with the court.
Add to my exhibits for the court for today, where she states, you have absolutely some nerve talking of respect. Respect would have been for you to speak about no sexually inappropriate behavior from my son in Carolina or any state for that matter. Since you had the 5-hour hearing from February 14th, 2020, listen to it, and the fact that you have read through all these files and the DSS files from the juvenile court, as you said you guys had done, or do I need to submit that email to you as well? Because you said it. You disrespected your oath to the Tribune by allowing it to be misled. You sat there and did not speak up and let them crucify a minor 13-year-old child like he was a gang member for doing a notorious dance called the Crip Walk the majority of people can do. Not you, the judge, the attorneys, or the interveners, or nobody has ever took responsibility for what has transpired and the part any of you play in what happened since February of this year. My attorney and I was minding our own business, waiting for the trial that was previously scheduled for May of this year. It don't damn matter if Yolanda amended the emergency motion. She said my son had been investigated for sexually inappropriate behavior in her motion, filed it as if it was a fact, and got the order in part mainly because of that statement as fact. You sent opposing counsel a message asking for their recommendations. That's your job, and I know from your motion you're not happy that you're all over the internet in the video in your house, because you keep mentioning the video, did at the recusal hearing and again in this motion. You guys started this first by Yolanda filing that motion, you by not speaking up and telling the court, like you did in that email that you sent me, and I quote, "We have nothing in our possession that any of your son's behaviors had anything to do with sexually inappropriate behaviors, etc." And then McCallum for accusing me of testifying that my son had been investigated for sexually inappropriate behaviors, something I didn't, not at the February 14th, 2020 hearing or ever, because it's a lie. Until that motion, I had my girls numerous times with Caleb because nobody told me I couldn't, not any court, DSS, no one. He has never harmed his sisters. Do you have any damn idea how that statement and him not seeing his sisters has hurt him? Do you? He lays in his sister's room and cries. He is a 13-year-old kid, and that statement can harm him for life. So stop acting like you're being harassed by my attorney and I, and a victim. Only person who has been harassed and is a victim is my son, a 13-year-old child. I mean everything I said, and I won't apologize for it, and that goes for you, Yolanda, McCallum, all of you. You're a hypocrite and liar. You lied and still lied by omission. I was respectful to CFCR, the court, and all parties, and still respect the law. But no, you're right. I don't respect you, McCallum, or Yolanda, not one damn bit. You, Ms. Tutoni, should reflect on Rule 3.3, candor to the court, specifically Rule 3.3A1, which states, quote, "A lawyer shall not knowingly make a false statement of material fact or law to a tribunal or fail to correct a false statement of material fact or law previously made to the tribunal by the lawyers. Have a good day." Your Honor, I can't hear you.
All right, a couple of things. I'll address these pending motions that we have in the system. We had an amended motion to recuse that was.
So there's that one. And then let me go. And give you the other one. This is the one where she, this is actually the contempt hearing that I'm going to play for you guys, where I was actually held in contempt the second time that was mentioned on that change.org petition that I went over you briefly. So let me go ahead and read this because, I mean, yes, I interrupted the court because you're up there a judge on the bench and you're lying, saying, and then so here we're going to watch it because if I understand correctly, the law is that if you are held in direct criminal contempt of court, you can lose your freedom, right? You can go to jail. So at that point in time, if I'm not mistaken, you have a right to an attorney. And also, or you go to jail right then and there, then you appeal right there and you go to Superior Court, and Superior Court sets your bond. Judge McCallum, I am not a criminal. I am not a felon. None of that. She gave me a $40,000 bond. And frankly, to this day, this pisses me off because I'm seeing actual criminals, just like the one that just killed Irina Zaruski, where he was let out on bond on like $1,000 bond for actual criminal charges in Mecklenburg County. But that man was let on a written promise to appear. Here I am in family court without a record, like some other mothers and survivors are. And I'm given a $40,000 felony freaking bond in family court for contempt. And you're not even supposed to set the bond. Superior Court was supposed to set the bond. So we're going to watch that hearing right now. So I have my own personal experience with Mecklenburg County Family Court, and that petition It's not, that's what I'm saying is that, if it was one person saying these things, but I have the petition with McCallum now, and I had heard about other family court issues during that time from some other parents and litigants. But now there's a petition with over 1,000 signatures and numerous other complaints about the same judges, about Mecklenburg County Court corruption, Charlotte, North Carolina, on top of other issues that we had, that the state of North Carolina has seen, and even the nation has seen, for the failure of in Mecklenburg County leader, and with the death of Arena, the Mecklenburg County just had Border Patrol there for the ICE detainers. But the court system here is just horrible. It's messed up because you have real violent criminals in North Carolina that are so forth. Has had that going on. Luckily, Arena's all just went into effect yesterday, December 1st. That's going to hopefully halt some of this. But you have real violent criminals being released on written promises to appear in $1,000 bonds. But then you have protective parents, mothers, survivors of domestic violence, losing their children, having their constitutional rights violated, being gaslit. Not just then they leave like they're supposed to do and try to protect their children. Here they come in the Mecklenburg County court system and get re-victimized. If not, get worse. I've even heard parents say that, I've heard survivors say that the abuse that I experienced after I left in family court was worse than the abuse that I was experiencing when I was actually living with my abuser. And that's pretty damn sad. So let me go ahead and play this video for you guys. I'll make sure that I'm sharing my screen.
Are you representing her on that, or is she representing herself?
I don't. Is she?
Can you raise your right hand?
No, I'm asking. I would like for another judge to hear the contempt.
It's just the raise contempt. You don't have that right. And can you raise your right hand?
I want an attorney.
You're not entitled to an attorney in a direct contempt case. Can you raise your right hand? You can raise your right hand and swear in the court, and you'll be held in contempt of court for that. So are you going to raise your right hand and be sworn in?
Mr. Casa can represent me in the contempt. So you see that she asked me to raise my right hand. So what you're going to see is that I never actually refused to raise my right hand. Sworn in. Everybody had already been sworn in. We were still in session because I was held in contempt at the beginning of the hearing, right? So before, I didn't even have to raise my hand again because I was already sworn in to the court, technically. And I never actually said, no, I'm not swearing in. You heard me ask for an attorney. you heard me ask for another, and she denied me that. And there's some law with that, yeah, but still, considering the entire case with this, she should have probably let another judge. I never refused, but she holds me in contempt a second.
Are you representing Ms. Morgan for contempt of court? They're now court.
So this is the other thing, is that I'm trying to figure out if I was not okay. So you heard her. So you heard McCallum say that I did not have a right to an attorney because it was a direct contempt, but then asked me if I was representing myself, and then asked if my family court attorney was going to represent me. So that does any of that make sense to you? Because it still don't make no damn sense to me. But let's finish.
Now has probably announced the contempt of court. The second being, when asked to raise her hand to swear in, she has refused to do so. Are you representing her?
Yes.
All right. You can have this opportunity to tell the court why Ms. Morgan should not be held in contempt of court for her outburst, and secondly, why she shall not be held in contempt of court for refusing to swear in.
I don't specifically recall the incident that you're referring to, so you would need to give me, Your Honor, a little more information regarding the outburst.
All right, so you both were present in the call, and I said in the beginning, when she addressed the court directly at the beginning of this hearing, as I've told her many times before, do not address the court directly. When Ms. Tachoni argued her motion, I addressed the court, and I said I wanted to clear up a couple of things, one of them being the information that was given about her son, and then she made an outburst, or you did say it, and she said some other things. Second one, I think you were present. The clerk asked her to raise her right hand to swear in, and she refused. I asked her to raise her right hand, and she refused.
Okay. So, Your Honor.
So once again, she said I refused. If you're watching this, judge, I asked for an attorney, and why I wasn't given an attorney right then and there, public defender or anything like that. But I was denied that, but then I was asked if I wanted to represent myself or have my family court attorney represent me. Make it make sense, because yeah, you see my attorney looks just as confused and irritated with this as everybody else does. So let's proceed.
This case is very taxing, I believe, on Ms. Morgan. And as a mother myself, my youngest is 20 and my oldest is 32. I cannot imagine having to sit through a proceeding and there's allegations that my oldest child was in the facility for sexual inappropriate behavior. And as a result, my youngest child could not be around my oldest child, and they're very close. And I think for anyone, they would have a nervous breakdown. And I believe that Miss Morgan is just very upset, and she's letting her emotions get to the best of her. She does not have her children for something that she has not done. And it appears that her son may have some issues, like many Americans in this country, and he's being vilified for those issues. And it's very taxing and tolling on my client. So I don't believe that she meant any ill, just a reflex when you believe something that's being said is not true. Regardless of whether the statement is true or not, if you believe something is not true, it's just natural for you to say that's not true. And I believe that is what happened here. As far as not being sworn in, I was not paying attention in that moment. I don't know specifically what happened, if she, just sat there or what have you. But again, I think it's just very emotional for Miss Morgan in this time period. And obviously she should definitely respect the courtroom. So I'm not condoning her outburst at all. I'm just saying that it's hard for her right now, and asking that she not be held in contempt on this issue.
All right, thank you. The court is going to find Ms. Morgan criminal contempt of court beyond a reasonable doubt, finding that Ms. Morgan has a history of outbursts and inappropriate communications with the court, that she made an outburst at the beginning of this hearing, and she was warned by the court that a contempt. The court is going to sentence her to 30 in jail. That sentence is active. On this Morgan in criminal contempt court for refusing to raise her hand and be sworn in by the bench. Refused. The court is going to sentence Ms. Morgan to 30 days in the Mecklenburg County Jail. That sentence is active. The sentences are to be served consecutively. Ms. Morgan will turn herself in the Mecklenburg County Jail tomorrow by 10 a.m.
Your Honor, I would like to let the court know that we're going to appeal.
All right, and that appeal bond will be $20,000 on each consent. If not, she can't post a bond.
How much you love her with this beautiful gift.
Well, I don't know why I did that, but
It says, to my daughter.
yeah. So if you guys haven't seen, this is actually a judge robe that a retired judge gave me. So family today because, and I help other mothers and other survivors and victims because, as you guys watched, I lived it, I've experienced it. I experienced domestic violence, and I also experienced post-separation abuse. It was a very difficult time for me. It is a miracle that I made it out of there in my right mind, even though people that were close to me can tell you that I really struggle with that. I think I did have a nervous breakdown like a lot of, but to God be the glory. I believe that God never wastes a hurt, a habit, or hip that goes through. God cycles hurts, and we're able to go back and help other people. And that's why I do what I do today. That's why I do work that I do. That's why I get out here and I say, and I expose. I believe that when we put things into the light, it loses power over us. And I will never let someone take my voice away. And even still to this day, feel that I didn't get to see a lot of justice. And I think that I really did, right? But I got divine justice. And God worked out my case. Never. Let me tell you how this went, guys, okay? So she held me to contempt of court, issued $20,000 bond on each contempt. There was an administrative order that was in place at that time that stayed all orders for arrest on like Patterson. Okay, I turned myself in multiple times to Mecklenburg County Court. Mecklenburg County jail. I had a bondsman, I had a bondsman on retainer, and they wouldn't take me. I tried to go turn myself in Mecklenburg County, Jackson, Union County, Cabarrus County, Gastonia, because I had to take care of that because I was supposed to come back and have my my family, my trial for my custody case. And there was no way, girl, I wasn't stupid like you. And once I found out that there was an administrative order in place too, and even though I was trying to turn myself in and take at all, like I called and take me at the now I look back and laugh because it's funny now, but back then I was so freaking frustrated. I'm not going in front of you because court was supposed to be on wax, right? She was trying to be slick and changed it to where I'm in person, which I knew. She knew that I knew there was an administrative order. But I knew that if I went in front of her, that she was going to lock me up, probably throw away the key, and I'd have been sitting in there till they gone probably still be in there, honestly. My son had to take care. I couldn't leave him. So yeah, I wasn't going in there. I never did a day in jail. I never did one in. My order for arrest was vacated, and I got my bond. My bondsman refunded me my bond. I went to court for the contempts. I just did a little $78 fine, little thing. It was done over with. But it took me 3 years to get in there to finally go have my appeal in Superior Court for my contempt because I appealed it and hired another attorney for the appeal. Gregory Hunt. He's amazing working. There's a lot of good attorneys there, and he is one of them. So that's my personal experience. So that this went over a little bit longer than what I had expected. But I was having some technical difficulties, and I wanted to make sure that we also, that I showed you guys the petition that's out there, because I have what I have there, and I don't regret what I did. even though I took a lot of heat for it, and it's a very difficult situation, I'm glad I did what I did. I believe that by me being vulnerable and sharing my experience, strength, and also my hope, because I'm not in family court no more. McCallum was removed out of family court. I have a great working co-parenting relationship in my case. My daughter's father is actually in treatment. My God really, showed up and showed out, and it looked very, very bleak. So I just want to give you guys that family court is the worst court to go through, and it will rob you mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially, even physically make you ill. And then, but there is hope. And I'm going to give you guys some scriptures too before we sign off about, I tell people, if you can by all means work. Family court, in my opinion, should only be used for real cases where there is neglect and abuse. Okay, all this back and forth stuff that some of y'all do with each other when there's like just over petty stuff, it's clogging up the court system. Okay, because there is real cases that are not getting listened to and heard, where there's actual real domestic violence, real physical, sexual, and emotional abuse of children, and some of you guys that go keep on things going over and over and keep on filing stuff and wanting more money, wanting this back and forth and stuff. Forgive and let the crap go, and co-parent, unless the person, because you guys clog up the courts, and so it takes away from the real cases that need to be looked at, the due diligence of attorneys, the due diligence of the judges and stuff, when there's real allegations where children are actually being endangered or at risk of being harmed, and as well as victims. So I just want to put that out there. The court, the Bible does tell us to stay out of court. Tells us not to go in court. I'm going to read that to you. But let me get back to the case with Mecklenburg. Okay, so that's my experience. And McCallum was a big doozy, not just in my case, as you guys can see, but also in that petition. She violated a parent's constitutional rights, biased, abused her contempt powers, and was just an absolute monster in family court. I really hope that, I was so angry and upset in my case, and so angry at her and so mad at everybody that I remember being so angry and mad. I never want to have that God, I'm so grateful that God helped me to forgive and remove that poison out of my spirit, because it was really hurting me mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically, holding on to that bitterness and that resentment. So I hope that, I pray for them. I pray for God to expose it. I pray for God to convict them of what they did. I pray for God to show them the errors, and I hope that they don't get no rest until they change their behaviors and ask for forgiveness for what harmed their decisions, how they treated people in the court, as well as in my case. So there is a systemic breakdown. People across, like I said, are accusing the family court of corruption, bias, and systemic neglect. You have judges ignoring abuse, victims punished for speaking up, children forced into unsafe environments, attorneys and guardian ad litems operating with zero accountability, period, complaints dismissed by Judicial Standards Commission. And this isn't just one upset parent like myself. That's why I wanted to read to you those other comments before I showed you mine, is that this is not, it's not just me. This is coming from numerous other people. And I'm happy, like I said, I'm sitting here with my robe that this retired judge gave me. She's like, you're gonna be, they say your purpose is tied to your pain. She's like, you go on to law school, you go get that degree, you go in there and you do the thing. So I'm just going to put it on tonight. I thought, since I'm sitting there, since that judge was judging me so bad, I'm going to sit up here and judge them in the robe. So this is not just one parent like myself being upset. This is a citywide pattern that's going on in Mecklenburg County court system, okay? And what does the state say? Nothing to see here. That's the first red flag. There's nothing to see here. So in April of 2025 in Mecklenburg County, so let me tell you some things as I'm going to also pull up for you. So in Mecklenburg County, virtual court hearing was hijacked by trolls who blasted pornography, racial slurs, and hate speech over the live stream for a WebEx hearing. A family court hearing was hijacked live. Where was the security protocols? Where was the IT department? Where was leadership? Children, parents, and survivors had to witness sexual content and racial hate speech in a courtroom setting. And the court to this day still hasn't issued a meaningful explanation. That's not a glitch. That is institutional negligence on their part. Then, so the deeper patterns of corruption. If Charlotte had one failure, okay, like in my case, or like one thing, okay, we could say it was an incident, we could say, whatever. But Charlotte, North Carolina court system, family court, criminal court, has a pattern. Judges accused of misconduct still sitting on the bench, investigations that are swept under the rug, clerks previously exposed for pocketing fees, bias against survivors, especially women who present abuse evidence, guardian ad litems who ignore evidence and still get assigned to cases, and attorneys who intimidate victims, lie in filings, and get rewarded for it. This is incompetence. This is a total systemic rot at the core. Now, I was just up there this past weekend. I got family and friends up there. Went there for Thanksgiving. Charlotte was trying to look all cute. It was very quiet after Border Patrol left. So you would think, like, when you get up there, you would think, like, ain't nothing going on here. This is like a regular city. It's nice here. It's cool. The city's beautiful, especially at night. But internally, the systems that operate there is rotten from the core. And the state pretends it's business as usual. It's time to say the obvious. A system that protects abusers instead of children is not a justice system. It's just not. Period. It's a criminal enterprise wrapped in legal procedure. That's exactly what you have here. A criminal enterprise wrapped in legal procedure. This is not justice. Parents and children are not receiving justice. So let's get real. These aren't cases. These are people's lives that these judges, these attorneys, DSS workers, GALs, you guys are playing with people's lives. There has children and victims that end up dead because you ignored the warning signs. There's children being abused, being sexually abused, and you're ignoring, and it's right there in front of you. Every time a judge ignores domestic violence evidence, a child pays the price. Every time a victim is labeled uncooperative, crazy, or victim blaming, another survivor is silenced. Every time the guardian ad litem, counter children's rights, refuse to, or the detectives and them refuse to investigate, the truth gets buried. And I have a case right now, but I've seen other ones. A lot of times people change attorneys. A lot of these attorneys and people, they do not go back to the original filings and look at other stuff. And so orders and rulings contradict the evidence from and like the judges too. They don't go back and look at everything in the case. And it contradicts itself. I actually looked at a case. I have a case right now that I'm looking at, working on with a parent up there. And there was actually an email in there between both lawyers that clearly says that this is an email that was filed with the courts, public information, where both attorneys exchanging the email that they both know the court contradicted itself. Seriously? So this isn't emotional. This is measurable harm that is happening to children and families in Charlotte, North Carolina's family court system. Survivors in Charlotte have lost custody, financial stability, emotional safety, and in some cases, their children's well-being. A system that keeps operating as if nothing is wrong. Like, this is what you have. You have a system that keeps operating as if nothing is wrong. on every level there. If this happened in any other institution, healthcare, law enforcement, education, there will be federal intervention. And that maybe what needs to happen. Of course, I'm so glad that I hate that Irina lost her life. I hate that, because it should never have happened. That was negligence on the court's part and that magistrate's part. But like the exposure that that's being seen right now and what's going on there. I mean, everybody else in North Carolina, people in Charlotte can see it. People in North Carolina can see it, and even nationwide can see that Charlotte, North Carolina has a issue. And I have been pushing this and saying this for a while, is that there needs to be a federal and state investigation. Even if it means Donald Trump and the Trump administration needs to come in there and stuff like that, there is mass public corruption going on in that city and in that court system. So hopefully with Irina's law, some things will change and judicial accountability. I know here in Florida, we have some representatives that are actually pushing to remove judicial immunity and stuff in certain situations, especially when you have a violent criminal allegations and things like that, and judges have ignored it. And so I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out. So why does nothing change? The answer is very simple. The reason nothing changes is simple. Oversight doesn't exist. Accountability is a myth. And power, of course, protects itself. Judicial misconduct complaints in North Carolina are dismissed at staggering rates. Attorneys who abuse their authority rarely face any discipline. I don't even think that there has not been a judge face any real discipline in North Carolina in freaking years. Guardian ad litem, Council for Children's Rights, best interest attorneys, they operate with complete immunity. You could have 100 sworn affidavits, police reports, therapist statements, and the system will still blame the protective parent. And I am actually seeing that right now in a case that I'm working on. I'm looking at this case, and it's an allegation of sexual abuse. I'm looking at this case with a family member. I'm like, are we all freaking blind here? But then you have the court system, everybody blaming the mother, saying that the mother is coaching the kids. And I'm like, Ray Charles could see what's going on here. That's not justice. That's organized gaslighting. This is what you have in Mecklenburg County Family Courts. Organized gaslighting. Let me put that up here on the screen for you guys, so we can remember this. Organized gaslighting. And what do we call that? We also call this court-induced trauma. So, Charlotte, I don't know when the hell y'all are going to get it. I don't know if y'all are going to get it together or not. If you're not, God just needs to send his wrath down and just expose everything, and I think that's ultimately what's going to end up having to happen, is that because there is so much denial. You know what denial means? Don't even know I'm lying. Leaders up there, you guys, either you know and don't care. Some of y'all are too scared to say anything and speak up. Like, I know I even heard some of the police and stuff saying when they were having a meeting about Irina, that when you speak up and tell the truth, even around coworkers and stuff, you don't want to rock the boat. You may lose your job. You may do this and stuff like that. And that's unfortunate. When you tell the truth and everything else and stuff, the most hated person is the person who tells the truth. This will not change until the public forces it to change. So I'm asking everybody, sign these petitions that are on change.org that I just showed you. Okay. They're going to be in my link. You can go to survivorsoutreachministries.com. You can sign it there. You can also go to our Facebook page, TikTok, and Instagram. It's up there. Document everything. If you have a family court case, screenshot, emails, recordings were allowed. Contact your legislatures and demand an independent investigation in the State Bureau of Investigation into Mecklenburg County Family Court system, not an internal review, an outside audit of these judges, clerks, attorneys, and best interest attorneys as well. And most importantly, support survivors. The system isolates victims. Community needs to break that cycle. Expose corruption publicly. Speak, post, share. Speak, post, share. Okay? That's what the enemy wants you to do. Remember that. That's what the enemy wants you to do. He wants to take your voice away. He wants you to remain silent. Don't do it. Like I said, I remember when I put my videos out there back in 2021, I stood alone. I even had, and probably some of you guys may watch this video eventually, I was laughed at. I was mocked by the community. Some of y'all thought that shit was funny. I was like, I lost friends, family briefly during that time. I was shunned. But now look, I was called crazy. Y'all can call me crazy. I don't care. Maybe a little bit, but in a good way. They called Jesus crazy too. They called Malcolm X crazy. They called Gandhi crazy. They call him crazy and stuff like that. Okay, that's fine. I'm in good company. So speak, post, share. Sunlight, the light destroys corruption. Expose darkness. Fight evil. Expose darkness. Demand federal oversight. The Department of Justice has intervened in corrupt court justice systems before. Charlotte is way overdue for that. Period. Real justice in family court is evidence-based rulings, trauma-informed judges, best interest attorneys held accountable for negligence, as well as DSS workers. Attorneys disciplined when they lie or retaliate. Abuse allegations are taken seriously. Victims believed, not punished. Victims should always be believed, not punished. You believe. You believe the victim first, but you also go back and trust and verify. And if there is some discrepancy like that, it'll come out. The truth always eventually comes out. Children must be protected at all costs. Transparency, not secrecy. Oversight, not immunity. That is what we need in Mecklenburg County Family Courts. Charlotte deserves this. Families deserve this. Most importantly, children deserve this. And the system right now has failed them. So I'm going to... So like when I was talking about Judge McCallum, okay? Charlotte doesn't just have issues in family court. Charlotte has documented allegations against specific judges who have been repeatedly accused of violating people's rights, ignoring evidence, and retaliating against survivors, like Judge McCallum, okay? Where she violated litigants' constitutional rights, refused to consider evidence, showed bias against protective parents, mishandled domestic violence cases, and abused her judicial discretion, okay, and her contempt powers. Then we also have the new petition. The stories on this petition are not small complaints. They are consistent, repetitive, and alarming. Parents describe feeling blindsided, silenced, and stripped of their rights. Some report being punished for simply reporting the abuse. Others say that they are being ignored, that evidence is being ignored that could have protected their children. And the pattern matches this is a consistent pattern that is happening citywide. So the petition is not outlier. It's a part of a larger wave of petitions, all pointing to the same systemic failures within Mecklenburg County court system. When an entire community, from survivors to attorneys to advocates, is calling out the same judges and judge, like McCallum, for the same behavior, you don't have coincidence here. You have a pattern of judicial misconduct hiding behind the shield of immunity. That's like I said, we have a person out here who's trying to remove that shield of immunity. And the question becomes, why are these judges still on the bench? Why is no one investigating? Why is the state protecting the system instead of the children? This is the kind of judicial culture that makes corruption possible and makes reform unavoidable. And that's exactly what needs to happen here. I just don't know how to say it. So let me give you incidents for some judges. 1 minute, I dropped my phone. Ashley Ann Blackwell, magistrate under investigation. A special prosecutor recommended removing Magistrate Blackwell after claims she had asked judges and magistrates to handle cases differently for defendants she knew. Allegations included conflicts of interest, relationships with criminal defendants, and misuse of her position. Despite the recommendation, a judge overseeing the complaint declined to remove her, citing insufficient, clear, and convincing evidence. The magistrate remains on the job. The original complaint was filed by another magistrate alleging Blackwell engaged in unethical behavior, including favoring known defendants and interfering with bond decisions. That's that one. Then you have Robin Sabio, magistrate removed after misconduct. In May of 2024, Superior Court judge removed Magistrate Robin Sabio following allegations she skipped required training and mishandled bond money, indicating serious administrative failure and a lack of oversight. This is a concrete example of accountability, but also proof that failings are systemic rather than isolated. Then you have another one. I'm just going to keep going here. Let's see. According to a 2024 investigation, magistrates in Mecklenburg County and across North Carolina often hold powerful judicial authority, issuing warrants, setting bonds, handling domestic violence cases, and restraining orders, yet there's little required legal training. That's why we have Arena's Law right here. Oversight or qualification threshold. Many magistrates are not attorneys. Their backgrounds vary widely, teachers, store managers, etc. This structural weakness opens the door for potential corruption, conflicts of interest, and miscarriages of justice, just like what we saw with the case with Arena and DeCarlos Brown. So that's why this was changed. Experts quoted in the reporting highlight that allowing minimal qualified individuals such power undermines public confidence, especially in a large, diverse county like Mecklenburg. Okay. Then let's go on. There's a widely circulated petition titled "In Family Court Corruption and Bias, Charlotte, North Carolina," which specifically names the judges, like I said, Karen D. McCallum, Jena Culler, Christy Mann, Alyssa Levine, and Rhonda Patterson as repeatedly demonstrating bias, ignoring abuse evidence, creating dangerous custody outcomes, and especially in domestic violence cases and child safety cases. The petition cites numerous stories from protected parents and survivors describing systemic failures, unfair rulings, and repeated denial of victims' constitutional rights. Right? So let me go in here and I got so many other ones in here. Like there's so many. Okay, so it doesn't stop there with judges and magistrates. So then you also have clerks and e-court issues impacting people's liberty in Mecklenburg County. 2024, a federal lawsuit over North Carolina's new e-court system specifically added the Mecklenburg County Sheriff, Gary McFadden, and the Mecklenburg County Clerk of Court as defendants. The allegation stated that they spent between 14.5 and 26.5 extra hours in jail due to the e-court's errors and deprive people of liberty, right? Then, so when people say nothing's wrong with Mecklenburg County courts, it's just a few angry parents, I point to the named judges and petitions, magistrates investigated, suspended, or removed, clerks accused of pocketing money, and the clerks and sheriff named in lawsuits over unlawful detention. And we already know what's going on with Gary McFadden, right? So why am I bringing up magistrates, clerks into a conversation about family court? Because family court doesn't operate in a vacuum. The same courthouse culture, the same leadership, the same oversight failures, and the same tolerance for misconduct that let magistrates mishandle bond money, play favorites, or skip mandatory training. This is the same culture that allows family court judges to ignore abuse evidence, demean domestic violence survivors, and hand children to alleged abusers with no accountability whatsoever freaking ever. When you see multiple roles inside the same county, judges, magistrates, clerks, and administration, all tied to scandals, petitions, or suits, you're not looking at isolated bad apples. You're looking at Mecklenburg County court culture problem, period. And that's why this conversation was very much needed. And this is probably going to be my longest podcast because this is a huge issue happening. And that's why this conversation has to move from complaining litigants to full independent investigation and reform. All right. So to tie it up, now let's talk about the watchdog that's supposed to keep all these judges in line, because this is where the system really shows its hand. North Carolina has something called the Judicial Standards Commission, the body responsible for investigating and disciplining judges across the entire state. Sounds really good on paper, right? Logistically and in reality, it's a toothless bureaucratic committee with almost no operational capacity. And here's what some of you guys do not know, okay? North Carolina has 99 counties. And the Judicial Standards Commission, like I said previously, only has one investigator, one single person to handle misconduct investigations for district court judges, superior court judges, court of appeals judges, Supreme Court justices. Thousands of cases, thousands of rulings, and hundreds of judges statewide. One investigator for 99 freaking counties. As opposed to police all of them. Right? They can't hear all, and not every complaint gets even heard. It gets ruled out immediately. Even if it does make it to be actually set and heard, like when I filed with McCallum, it's covered up. So this isn't oversight. That's a stall tactic dressed as accountability. Like, it doesn't even make sense. So nearly every complaint filed against a judge in North Carolina gets dismissed. Not because the judge was proven innocent, not because the complaint had no merit, not because evidence was reviewed thoroughly, but because the commission literally does not have the staff, the bandwidth, or the infrastructure to investigate judicial misconduct at a scale with 99 counties and all these judges and magistrates and so forth in the state. So if Mecklenburg County alone receives dozens of serious judicial complaints and one investigator is responsible for the entire state, how many of those cases do you think ever get looked at? Rarely any, right? So ultimately, the system is engineered to protect judges, not the public. And that's why judges in Mecklenburg County, even the ones named repeatedly in petitions and complaints, continue sitting on the bench without consequences. Judges accused of retaliating against mothers, judges accused of ignoring evidence, judges accused of violating due process, judges accused of violating constitutional rights, and judges with multiple petitions calling for their removal. Nothing happens. One investigator. Even though there's other judges that sit on the committee and stuff, you have one individual investigator for the entire Judicial Standards Commission. So mediocrity gets promoted, corruption gets ignored. As always in Mecklenburg County, victims get silenced, and judges get away with everything short of murder. And sometimes even that gets a pass. Did you hear just what I said? And judges get away with everything short of murder. And sometimes that even gets a pass. Because there is children that have actually died from these rulings. It is seriously, I'm totally baffled, guys. I really am just totally baffled. So when the people with the most power in the courtroom operate with zero fear of consequences, you no longer have justice. You have a protected class, a judicial autocracy, controlling families, children, and outcomes with unchecked authority. And that's exactly what we see in Charlotte, North Carolina, and Mecklenburg County. This isn't just corruption at the local level. This is a state-level systemic failure that trickles down to every custody ruling, every DB case, every GAL assignment, every courtroom where a parent walks in hoping for justice, but instead walks into a firing squad, literally. One investigator for 99 counties. That's a whole, that just baffles me. So it's no wonder nothing changes. No wonder judges don't care. And no wonder families get destroyed daily in Charlotte, North Carolina. There is no accountability by design. And it's sad. It's very, very sad. The court commission's judicial members include Jeffrey Carpenter, Court of Appeals, Julie Flood, Vice Chair, Court of Appeals, Ashley Gore, Superior Court Judge, Don Layton, Superior Court Judge, Edwin Wilson, Superior Court Judge, Andrew Womble, Superior Court Judge, Justin Brackett, District Court Judge, Rashad Hodder, District Court Judge, Angelica McIntyre, District Court Judge, and Scott Straight, District Court Judge. So most of the members consist of, you have two members According to state law for Judicial Standards Commission, North Carolina, 2 members must be judges from the Court of Appeals appointed by the Chief Justice of the state Supreme Court. They serve as chair and vice chair. 2 members must be Superior Court judges appointed by the Chief Justice. 2 members must be District Court judges appointed by the Chief Justice. 4 additional judges, 2 from District Court and 2 from Superior Court. These are appointed by the state legislature via certain leadership recommendations. And then 4 non-judicial citizen members, private citizen appointees, not active or retired judges. 2 are appointed by the governor, 2 by the General Assembly. So terms for non-Court of Appeals members are 6 years. Court of Appeals members serve at the pleasure of the Chief Justice, just to give you how the Judicial Standards Commission is working. So if the complaints concern judicial misconduct or disability, the commission can investigate, hold hearings, and recommend discipline, including censure, suspension, or removal. I have not heard too many judges being censured, suspended, or removed at all in North Carolina in a long time. James DiGiovanni, he is the Director of Investigations for the North Carolina Judicial Standards Commission. Like I said, he is the only Judicial Standards Commission investigator. So, and he's been there for a very long time. He maintains staff under the heading members and staff, but the publicly available listing names only the commission members and James Giovanni by position. So beyond the Director of Investigations, there is no public detailed listing of a broader investigative team or support staff, just him. So just wanted to put that out there. So with only one named investigator publicly listed, external complaints rely heavily on a single point of contact, creating a bottleneck that undermines capacity for independent, exhaustive investigations. The confidentiality system means most complaints never become public, which reduces transparency and community ability to monitor patterns of judicial misconduct and the lack of robust publicly disclosed investigative teams. So, sorry, I say a lot, but yeah. This is North Carolina for you, and this is Mecklenburg County Family Court System. So, I know this was a long podcast, you guys. Usually they're between, and it needed to be a 2-hour podcast. Sorry I could not make it shorter. There was a lot of information in there, and I did want you guys to actually see the videos of Judge McCallum. I think that and also share with you the petition so you can see the comments. So tonight, though, was not about venting. It was about truth telling, because healing doesn't come from pretending. Healing comes from exposing what's broken and rebuilding what's just. Charlotte's family court system has operated in the dark for too long. The darkness flees when the right people start speaking. And trust me, you guys know me, and I'm not shutting up anytime soon at all. So thank you guys. Thank you for tuning in to the Healing Place podcast. If tonight resonated with you, please share this episode. Please tag your lawmakers, and please, please, please go on my page, go on to change.org and sign the petitions and keep applying pressure. Truth heals, accountability protects, and justice, real justice, starts right here with us. So keep telling, keep speaking up, and just remember, whatever you do, never let them silence you. Never let them silence you. Never let nobody take your voice. My name is Jessika Morgan. I'm a national victims' rights advocate. Thank you for tuning in tonight to the Healing Place podcast. I will talk to you guys later.